It wasn't me, it's the internet. I think we're back.
Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar, members of House Democratic leadership, and the House Democratic Caucus.
I gotta reset all of this now real quick. Oh, they back? All right, cool. We got King back. I don't know if you were just here. The internet, so I have fiber. So I gotta call AT&T. I have fiber internet, but for some odd reason, I don't know if it's the Arrow system. I have the Amazon Arrow, like the mesh Wi-Fi. I don't know if it's that or the fiber, but these gaps in the internet really fuck up the streaming vibe. But appreciate y'all tapping back in. And make sure I get my Stream Ninja back in. So I have all the people popping up on stream and screen saying all the foolishness. I can't really read the chat, so it's, again.
To reiterate our strong opposition to this spending bill because it fails to address the Republican health care crisis and it fails to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. House Democrats will continue to support our men and women in uniform.
Okay.
We will continue to support hardworking federal employees.
Okay.
We will continue to support our law enforcement personnel.
Okay.
House Democrats will continue to support our air traffic controllers. We will continue civil servants who have been under attack since day one of the Trump administration.
Ooh.
But we cannot support the Republican effort to gut the health care of the American people. Make sure that tens of millions of Americans don't experience dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles. We believe that working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans
care of all the people who be
deserve
dropping
the
negative
same
racist
level of
comments here.
certainty that Republicans always provide to the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. The same level of certainty. And so we're calling upon our Republican colleagues to join us and extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Oh, no, you know
and we will be working hard today, tomorrow, and throughout the balance of this year to make sure that those Affordable Care Act tax credits are extended. Now, Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They own the mess that has been created in the United States of America. They own it. In a few hours, we will convene on the House floor. And our message to the American people is no matter what happens on the floor later on today, our promise to you remains the same.
Let's go, man.
House Democrats will continue to fight to make your life more affordable. House Democrats will continue the fight to address the Republican health care crisis, and House Democrats will fight to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. This fight is not over. We're just getting started.
Wait a minute. Hakeem, we 40-something days in, people ain't been paid. People with career jobs are volunteering for work to make sure that 7.8 million people could fly safely this weekend. What are we talking about? If the fight's just starting and we just had 8 Democrats flipping the Senate, what the fuck's about to happen in the House? Listen, I don't know if T-Mobile Obama is fit for this fight, y'all. I'll be all the way real. I think there are a lot more other Democratic leaders that'll be better than Hakeem Jeffries, but who am I?
We're just getting started. Now, among the many outrageous things that has been said during the Trump Republican shutdown or done during the Trump Republican shutdown, that in his mind, he holds 2 titles, that he has 2 positions.
This guy is ridiculous. Y'all right,
Donald
chat.
Trump
I agree with you
says
when you're right, chat.
He's both the president and the Speaker of the House. That's what Donald
It's on
Trump
the soundboard,
said,
baby.
in the midst of him shutting
Get
down
one
the
too.
government. And what we've seen from compliant, sycophantic Republicans, corrupt House Republicans, is they continue to go along to get along. They don't function like a separate and co-equal branch of government. From the very beginning of this presidency and all the way through this Trump shutdown, Republicans in the House have continued to act like a wholly owned subsidiary of the corrupt Trump cartel. That may be
It's a
the
soundboard,
House
baby.
Republican position,
Watch.
but
Don't
damn
believe me.
sure
Watch.
it ain't
Listen,
the House
listen.
Democratic position.
Right there, wait.
Because we know. And what we say to the American
It's
people
on the
is that
soundboard,
we
baby.
don't work for
I ain't
Donald
changing
Trump.
no batteries.
We don't work for Jamie Dimon.
and a Ric
We
Flair.
don't work for your billionaire donors. We work for the American people. And that's what this fight all about. We work for the American people. As we stand on the Capitol steps,
Budget Obama and all that's too
ready to
much.
continue this
That's a
battle
Sheen Obama, y'all.
on the House floor. A battle that
Oh,
we
that's a
wage
good one, Brian.
week after week
No,
after
not
week,
really.
and that will
Not on my
continue
home.
regardless of the outcome. We say to the American people that we know you deserve better. You deserve much better than the chaos, the cruelty, and the corruption that you've seen. And so as House Democrats, we're going to continue
To do what?
this fight to lower the high cost of living.
Well, y'all ain't got the votes.
In a country where America is far too expensive, far too many people struggling to live paycheck to paycheck, can't thrive, and can barely survive. That should not be the case in the United States of America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And so as Democrats, we're committed to addressing this affordability crisis. That's what this fight has been all about. And we'll continue to work hard to lower the high cost of living. We'll continue the fight to fix our broken healthcare system. And we'll continue to fight to stand up for Medicaid.
Oh.
We'll continue to fight to stand up for Medicare.
Oh.
We'll continue the fight to stand up for the Affordable Care Act
Oh.
and an extension of the tax credits. We'll continue to fight for your hospitals.
Oh.
We'll continue to fight for your nursing homes.
Oh.
We'll continue to fight for your community-based health clinics, and we'll continue to fight for the principle that in this great country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world,
Oh.
healthcare can't simply be a privilege
Oh.
available only to the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. Healthcare must be a right available to every single American. And that's the
Listen,
fight
let's be for real.
that-
Democrats, I'm not tired of hearing the same old speech. I've been a Democrat all my life. I'm tired of hearing the same old speech. But that was okay. That was a nice church sermon with a smoke detector battery, or as they call it on the stream, the chat has called it the African ceiling bird. So, Hakeem, sorry, Leader Jeffries, good job on that speech, but I don't think it's going to change shit for real, to be fair.
House Democrats will continue to wage for the American people. It's now my great honor to yield to class, the first term members during this
It's a
turbulent
soundboard.
and
I ain't telling
tumultuous
y'all
period
again.
here
I'm gonna hit full
in the United
soundboard on
States
your ass
Congress
next.
and for the country. From the great state of California, the Honorable Luz Rivas.
Thank you, Leader Jeffries, Whip Clark, and Chair Aguilar for your
Lord,
leadership across the country. Recently, I spoke with Speaker Johnson directly in the Capitol and hand-delivered stories from my and
Got
my
some good
fellow
clips on that one. I appreciate
freshman
y'all bullshitting on
colleagues,
the chat.
constituents who have been impacted by the Republican shutdown. This includes the story of Stephen Heller, a constituent from Van Nuys, which is in my district. Stephen and his wife are independent contractors who have to pay for their own health insurance. Because Republicans let the ACA tax credits expire, Stephen and his wife are facing a monthly health care premium increase of $1,000 per month in 2026. This will bring their monthly total to nearly $2,100 per month and nearly $25,000 for the year, just in health insurance. That is, in Stephen's own words, a terrible financial blow and an enormous financial burden. Constituents across the country like Stephen and his wife cannot afford Republicans' deal. I will vote no and continue to fight with House Democrats to protect the ACA subsidies that Stephen and millions of Americans rely on. House Democrats will continue our fight to protect health care, lower the cost of living, and keep the American dream attainable for all. Thank you. And next, I'd like to introduce my amazing colleague from Michigan, Congresswoman McDonald Ribbett.
Thank you very much. I come from mid-Michigan,
the part of the country where workers actually invented the American dream, to work hard enough to pay your bills, put a little bit away, and take your kids on vacation every once in a while. But the dream is further and further have created $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts and gutting the ACA in order to pay for the tax break for the ultra wealthy is making things so much harder. So let me give you an example. A couple in my district, they actually go to my church, called and told me they're in their 60s and they rely on the ACA tax credits to pay their insurance premiums. But now, because the Republicans have failed to extend these credits, their insurance premiums are going to jump by $11,000 next year. An impossible sum for people on the edge of retirement. Health insurance already consumes 72% of their retirement income. Let me say that again. 72% of their retirement income, and is about to go up another $11,000. That means they're facing devastating choices between doctor's visits and paying the mortgage, between cancer screenings and putting food on the table, between prescription drugs and heating their home. Or even, frankly, to get insurance at all. They told me, and this is a direct quote, they are strongly considering going without coverage and taking their chances rather than continuing to pay the premium. Because here's the reality. They actually can't pay that premium. I came to Congress, we all came to Congress to help people like them. Lower cost, better care, more jobs. One easy critical step is simply passing to extend the ACA credits. Yes. It is time we pass it before they pay the cost. Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce my colleague from California, Representative Tran.
Good afternoon. I am Congressman Derek Tran, and I proudly represent Orange and LA counties in California, and Esther are retired and living in Orange County, California. They're on a limited income, and their health insurance costs are overwhelming. They pay over $18,000 every year just in health care premiums.
This is boring.
And next year, their costs are going up to over $21,000.
Worth hearing.
When you're retired and living on a fixed income, that kind of cost increase can be devastating. Peter has been trying to get his wife Esther on Medicaid so she can get the care she deserves.
It's not as if these are the only Americans dealing with this issue, right? There's been an issue my entire lifetime that I've been able to actually pay attention to this. So let's say since 1992, 94, right? This has been the entire issue. There's never been a point where Medicare, Medicaid, these stories have ever had a quick solution. Even talking to a client earlier, when you're going through the contracting process with government or anything with government, it's a long, elongated process, right? It takes weeks on weeks sometimes to get answers about simple things. And unless you have an inside route or somebody who can help people trickle down to make your application a priority, AI is going to catch it and it's going to get caught up in the system. And the better part of the problem, I think, is when you talk about the efficiency of these programs, it's really catching government up with technology, right? Because it makes no sense why a lot of these issues end up being addressed or highlighted over and over again when it's like, well, damn, what's the real train? Like when Doge is going through their stuff and they're talking about the papers and everything else, I wasn't supporting overly Doge or whatever, right? But it does get to a point of saying, all right, cool. Is it government inefficiency, like old processes that kind of lead to this? Or is it just the same system being broken? I think it could be a mix of both, but there has to be some middle ground to say, you know what? A major part of the problem is we're using paper instead of using AI, right? Using an automated system or using a checks and balances that's more transparent than paper. I mean, if you're in the business sector, you kind of know what I mean. It's like taking receipts. Nobody wants to track their receipts all the time. You take a picture with your QuickBooks, it uploads it, all the other stuff. Like nobody wants to manually put stuff in. And I think that's the point where a lot of government needs to get updated. But maybe that's only one small part of the Medicaid issue. But it's like, again, for almost 30 plus years, it's the main thing I'm hearing from both sides of the aisle. It's never going to be fixed in my lifetime. I feel like it's going to be the same talking points for the next however many years God gives me.
This healthcare crisis is a choice by congressional Republicans and Donald Trump, who have inserted a $1 trillion bomb into the American healthcare system. And it is starting to go off. Millions right now are facing skyrocketing premiums. The largest cut to Medicaid in American history is on the horizon. Rural hospitals will close. Doctors' offices will shutter. Donald Trump loves to own things and slap his name on them. Well, he now owns the American healthcare system.
Affordable Care Act, some shit.
It is Trump Care.
I'm a Democrat. You won't give me to talk good shit about Affordable Care Act at all. I'm telling you for real.
Americans paying more for insurance, that's Trump Care. Everyone having to drive longer and take more time off work, that is Trump Care.
But that's also an issue that's happened forever. Now, if you live in rural America, to get to a hospital for an emergency, right? Imagine you're having to drive 2+ hours for pregnancy. If you live in like bumblefuck Florida, Central Florida around the curve, right? If you live in Taylor County, Perry, you may have to drive to Lake City or maybe Jacksonville or something else. Like there's issues today in different states where these things aren't realistically able to be fixed, even for the VAs, right? I live in Jacksonville for what it is. We have the most retirees among vets here. So a lot of people live here. They have VA hospital here. Cool, right? But some of the people, even some of my neighbors and other folks, they'll have to drive to Gainesville for that hospital because they don't have the clinicians or the physicians here, right? No, sorry, there's no VA hospital here. It's in Gainesville. But they have the money to build one here and it's being built. So currently, all that put together is kind of a factor saying, when you're looking at the veterans, if they're going through that, then you're looking at rural areas of America, rural pockets, they're going through the same thing. You live in Paducah, Kentucky, where are you driving to your closest hospital? So when you think about that, it's like, damn, okay, not everybody lives in a big city where it's right down the street, but these issues have been here for years, decades. So let's not make a decades-long issue this one thing is the break that's going to cause the end break. No. This has been a thing when Democrats were in power and Republicans were in power. Nobody gave a shit about putting a hospital closer in these rural areas. In some community, like you'll get the community hospitals and whatever, but you're not really getting the solution that you're all the way crying about now.
Donald Trump and congressional Republicans have raided your health care and used that money as a piggy bank to reward their donors with massive tax breaks. Cruelty is the currency of his corruption. Because Donald Trump only cares
and I'm a lobbyist, so I'm giving my perspective, bro. That's all it is.
And his billionaire buddies. And he certainly doesn't care.
Appreciate the insight, my brother.
House Democrats are here for everyone, whether they voted for us in the last election or not. I'm here on behalf of all of my constituents, including a family of 4 in Middletown who will see their premiums skyrocket by $10,000 next year. That's why we are all voting against this budget. And it's why we will not stop until every single American can get the health care that they need to live and thrive in America. Thank you all very much. And it is now my pleasure to introduce my friend from the great state of Alabama, Representative Shamari Figures.
And before Shamari gets up there, a part of what they're voting against is $37 billion for the Children Nutrition Program, which is school lunches, your free lunches for kids. Also a fact of $8 billion for SNAP, $150 million going to reserve, $107 billion for the SNAP the Specialty Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children. That's getting $8 billion. SNAP is getting $107 billion. The commodity assistance programs, which basically provide supplemental food, is getting $551 million. So all put together, even though they're voting against this bill, and it may not be everything that Democrats want, that's what I'm telling you is actually in the bill. Because it's actually in the bill. I went through the CR, I looked at the stuff and I said, you know what, this is very interesting, but also let me throw it in AI. Throw it in Perplexity, pull out what it is, and break it down. So at the end of the day, there are loans in here. So you end up having money in the defense aircraft for $200 million. Okay, cool. The defense is always gonna get their money. But gender specific care and women veterans, there's $1.4 billion for them, $698 million for suicide prevention outreach. That is amazing, especially when you're talking about men out here that are struggling with mental health, women that are struggling with mental health. Overall suicide being an issue among veterans, among children, among people on social media who think they have to appeal to a higher being than themselves, right? Or the Lord. And $698 million in suicide prevention money is good. But at the same time, when you get caught up in the narrative of what's right and what's wrong and the cuts to SNAP and the cuts to Obamacare, it's like, okay, cool. What is in the bill? Because I think that the greater outreach and the greater disconnect is when you're talking about telehealth for veterans, $6 billion, $6.3 billion for telehealth for veterans. That health situation I talked about a couple minutes ago about not being able to go to a VA clinic or a VA hospital in your area. So guess what? Telehealth may work for you, right? There's other things in this bill, $709 million for opioid prevention and treatment that relate to people. I think the greater disservice that politicians have is sticking to the narrative that's going to drive up your blood pressure. You feel me? I completely get the fact of we have to be partisan, but then we have to be realistic, because the reality of it is there are not enough Democrats in the House to stop this vote. I don't think the Republicans are going to have enough to break ship to send this bill back to the Senate for them to hopefully get the 8 Democrats to vote for it again. So all put together, this is going to be the law. And it's better to have some clarity on what's coming down the pipe for your state, for your local community, rather than being blindsided by the bullshit. Now, I didn't put all this up on the screen for y'all to go through and read through. It's in there for community health centers. $1.4 billion that can be spent until January 30th, 2026. National Health Service Corps get $115 million. So Medicare hospice surveys. Now, I don't know what those may be. It's $2 million for that. But all put together, I think it's a better conversation to say, okay, what the hell's in the bill? Even with these changes, how can it impact me? So if you're a caregiver for your parents, your grandparents, for your child, for your household, whatever, what's in it for me? And I think when we start really looking at the fact of the different policies and the different narratives and get into the actual statute or the staff analysis of what's actually in the bill, we end up creating different narratives for our own culture to say, you know what, damn, yes, I wanted Obamacare. I didn't, but somebody out there would say, yes, I want Obamacare. But then the other part of it is, shit, what's out there for me if I'm type 1 diabetes? I just found out they have a $53 million allocation for these kind of special programs that may be able to provide medication for me. How can I get in the queue for that? How can I understand what's coming down the pipe so I'm not blindsided and left out in the future? I think that helps American people. And I think that helps give you the greater action on what you need to do for your family to survive. But either way, thank y'all for tapping in. Let me get back to this, because y'all didn't just come to hear me speak. Or maybe you did.
Thank you. You know, House Democrats just spent the better part of the last 40+ days fighting to keep health care affordable for millions of Americans, while our House Republican colleagues were on a taxpayer-funded vacation. During this shutdown, the realities hit home for a lot of people.
Jeffrey, I did see that
worry about how they would take care of their children, their babies without WIC. Families stood in pantry lines. Families are still standing.
What's up, Nathan?
In food pantry lines. In the month of November, the month of Thanksgiving, because SNAP benefits were expired, and this administration chose to use them as pawns in this game. Capitol Police officers, members of the military, my staff, all of our staff, and millions of other federal workers had to deal with the uncertainty and the stresses of missing paychecks. And for what in the end? What were Republicans willing to give in the end? Nothing more than a handshake deal to take a future vote on extending the health care subsidies, when we all know that that future vote is the equivalent of asking 2 wolves and a chicken to vote on what's for dinner.
Cheese, I'm gonna give you my story in a second. I appreciate your comment, though. I'm gonna pin it for now.
It is dead on arrival. Now, I can speak to you as someone from a different perspective. A lot of us represent districts where we can talk about what could happen or what may happen. Let me tell you about what my district looks like in the state of Alabama. And it doesn't look too dissimilar from my fellow colleague from Alabama, Congresswoman Terry Sewell's district. I got about 50,000 people in my district who are slated to see their health care premiums on average nearly double.
It's crazy.
And this is in a district where the individual median income is just north of $32,000. I have 13 counties in my district. 10 of them either do not have a hospital because it has recently closed, or their hospital is on literal life support and they have to go to a county commission or a city council every single month to make payroll. And the largest hospital in Montgomery, Alabama, the state's capital, is in the midst of a bankruptcy and also facing risk of closure.
Appreciate you.
And this all in a state that has the third lowest life expectancy in the United States of America.
Well,
so healthcare for us is not a talking point. Healthcare for us is, protecting healthcare for us is a requisite. It's a requirement. It's something we have to do. And if you ask us if the shutdown was worth it, I say, hell yes, it was worth it.
Well, here we go.
Because fighting to maintain health care for American people, there's nothing more pure than that. There's no more important role that we have here as members of Congress than to ensure the health care of the American people.
That's a red state, Robert.
And so while the failure of Republicans to do anything to protect health care is truly disappointing, I want the world to know that my Democratic colleagues here in the House, they can ride with me in any battle I face in my life. They stood with us under the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries to make sure that we kept this front and center. And I look forward to remaining committed to this fight for all of Alabama and for all of America. And with that, turn it back over to our leader, future Speaker Jeffries.
I want to thank all of our distinguished colleagues who spoke so powerfully and eloquently about the nature of this fight that we continue to wage on behalf of the American people. And these are first-term members of Congress. But they recognize that as Democrats, we stand on the shoulders of many who, decade after decade, century into century, have always fought to make life better for everyday Americans and to protect the health care and enhance the health care of the American people. That's the continuing and enduring legacy of the Democratic Party. FDR fought for it. Truman fought for it. JFK fought for it. LBJ fought for it. Carter fought for it. Clinton fought for it. Barack Obama fought for it. Biden fought for it. And no one fought harder in the House of Representatives than our Speaker Emerita, Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi. That's in the DNA of the Democratic Party.
Had to get those clips in, y'all.
To Nancy Pelosi, to these first-term members. And so our promise to the American people is that we are in this fight until we win this fight
fucked up, y'all.
All of you. Cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
Dollar Tree Obama is so wild. It's so true, though. I think the speeches are played out. Who are struggling now, who haven't had a paycheck, I don't see how you can justify it again, because the House Democrats are against it. But what were the 8? What was in the 8 in the Senate that made them say, you know what, fuck it, it's time? Now, somebody did ask about the $500,000 provision that's in Section 213 of the bill. We did go through that on the stream last night. Basically, the language essentially says that if a senator if they had their phone records or data tapped through a grand jury subpoena, that essentially, without their knowledge or whatever, basically the limitation of that lawsuit, like the payout, would start at $500,000. To basically say that if they're working in their personal or professional role, that essentially they get immunity for that, kind of like not carte blanche, but you know, that's in there. They tucked it in. Some people are saying it's a January 6th, some other stuff. Nobody knows where the language came from, but language knows where it comes from. And by the time the press gets it, you're 2 days late because the deal was already cut to make it happen, right? And if you've seen Hamilton, if you're in the room where it happens, you know the deals happen that way. Then the press finds out, then everybody's scrambling. But by the time the press scrambles, we've already kind of worked out the solution. That's really the part of the game. But I'm gonna go to Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary. I believe Kash Patel was at this press conference earlier discussing the Epstein release by Democrats this morning. Let's hop in there. But also, before I get there, I want to really appreciate this comment earlier about cheese. Obamacare is overwhelmingly popular. People forgot that you used to be able to be denied pre-existing conditions or have lifetime maximum on your policy. Plus, young people couldn't stay on till 26. I completely get that, right, Cheese? My issue is, personally, I didn't fuck with Obamacare because I went from a private insurance to Obamacare by mistake through an insurance provider. And essentially, I was paying $398 a month that somebody who was poor essentially was paying $80 a year for, right? So again, by the time I realized I was paying $398 a month, I was damn near $2,000 in of payments, right? Because I was pissed off, like, damn, how'd I go from a diamond plan with my private insurance to a bronze plan somewhere else and better, piece of shit health insurance? But even from there, it's like, okay, cool. Why am I paying so much more than somebody that's poor? And then, of course, the subsidies and all the other shit. Like, no, fuck all that. Because even I lost my doctors, lost my meds, lost everything. I think from my experience, and it's different for everyone. I've had some people who love Obamacare. Some people who hate paying that much. Is like, bro, why am I paying for the same quality health care and I'm paying so much more? That's the part when I realized this bullshit. It's like, damn, I got fucked. But I had to get new insurance, end up getting out of that, blah, blah, whatever. But I just don't fuck with it. But that's my 2 cents. I know it may be popular among some people. It's not popular with me. And that's my opinion. But I appreciate y'all tapping in. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I am a hip hop lobbyist, a professional lobbyist in the state of Florida, primarily do appropriations, also energy consultant as well. A little bit of everything, husband, father, full-time household, all the other stuff. And when they say, negative stuff about black people, all the other stuff over criminals, no, I'm not. Never been arrested. I actually know, crazy stat, I know more people that have committed suicide in the last 5 years than have been arrested in my entire lifetime, which is crazy. So men are dealing with a lot. People are dealing with a lot. Make sure you're checking on your men, your homies, and make sure, they stay prayed up for them, because the world is dealing with a lot. The world is dealing with a lot, especially for expectations on being a provider, being a leader, and the world expectations just more than anything. And I think social media plays a role in that, deteriorating some of our quality of a men's life and mindset. But it's kind of sad, again, to know more people that have committed suicide in the past few years than have actually been arrested. So wild stat, crazy to know, but let's get into Caroline Leavitt, yo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today. We are going to get to my remarks and Q&A as always, but I do have the FBI director with me here, Kash Patel. You all know him well, and he's here to provide an update for you all with respect to China. As you know, President Trump had a very successful meeting on his trip to Asia with President Xi, where they discussed the need for China to crack down on fentanyl production and distribution, which ultimately makes its way here to the United States of America. And the FBI director recently traveled to China following President Trump's meeting to meet with his counterpart in Beijing. And he has a really positive announcement for the American people to share. So the president wanted me to bring the FBI director out to share that with all of you today. So Kash, please, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Caroline. As Caroline mentioned, we have some tremendous news thanks to President Donald J. Trump once again for the American people.
Go ahead, Cash.
As soon as the President of the United States took office, he issued a mandate to rid America of the scourge that is fentanyl, a drug that has killed hundreds. Attorney General Bondi immediately thereafter took steps to engage her counterpart in China at the Ministry of Public Security. Pursuant to their direct discussions, as the FBI director designated to run counterpoint on this, along with the Secretary of State Rubio and Ambassador Perdue and the team here at the White House, we set forward a path to implement the policy needed to crush the plague of fentanyl. Deputy Attorney General Blanche and our teams have been hard at work ever since. ultimately culminating in my trip to Beijing last week. This was only possible due to President Trump's historic engagement with President Xi just a few short weeks ago that set the stage for today's announcement. At that meeting, the leaders reached an agreement. But just to put this in frame for the American people, a reminder here that nearly 100,000 people died of fentanyl overdoses just last year alone. Here, this year, under this president, the FBI has seized 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl so far. That is a 31% increase from the same time period last year. To put it in perspective, that's enough fentanyl to kill 127 million Americans.
It's crazy.
Fentanyl precursors are what makes up fentanyl. While we, the interagency, the Department of Justice, have been fighting hard to seize and stop drug traffickers, we must attack fentanyl precursors, the ingredients necessary to make this lethal drug. That was the sole purpose of my trip to China, to eliminate these precursors. And if successful, we would suffocate the drug trafficking organization's ability to manufacture fentanyl in places like Mexico. This was the first time an FBI director has been to China in over a decade and received the audience with his counterpart to address this matter directly. And again, thanks to President Trump's direct engagement with President Xi, the government of China committed fully to my engagement there on the ground in Beijing at a level never seen before. While at Ministry of Public Security headquarters, I met with my counterpart at MPS, where the Chinese government agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl precursors. What does that mean? The People's Republic of China has fully designated and listed all 13 precursors utilized to make fentanyl. Furthermore, they have agreed to control 7 chemical subsidiaries that are also utilized to produce this lethal drug. Effective immediately, essentially, President Trump has shut off the pipeline that creates fentanyl that kills tens of thousands of Americans. These substances are now banned, and they will no longer be utilized by the Mexican drug trafficking organizations or any other DTOs around the world to make this drug. This historic achievement has saved tens of thousands of lives. This historic achievement would not have been possible without the tremendous team of President Trump, the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Ambassador Perdue in China, whose ground-level engagements were imperative to achieving this result. This is yet another example of how President Trump defends the American people, provides security for the American people, and puts the American people first. This is a historic first-in-its-kind achievement by any president to stop the scourge of fentanyl, and it should be championed by every single American. This achievement will save lives. We are thankful for President Trump's steadfast leadership, and this FBI will fearlessly follow in his footsteps to ensure that this mission of safeguarding the American public is achieved every single day. Thank you.
This shit really does feel like The Apprentice sometimes, you feel me? Well, I guess you gotta big up your boss, big up the president, make people feel secure and all the good shit, but after a while, it's like, damn, what? I've seen this shit on NBC before. And everybody's like a good case away from being fired, but you know, it is what it is. Make sure y'all like and subscribe.
Thank you. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you again, Director Patel. Before we get going, I do have one quick scheduling announcement.
The fentanyl thing is huge.
Tomorrow, President Trump will be joined by the First Lady in the East Room for an executive order signing aimed at expanding opportunities for education, career development, housing, and other resources for young people transitioning from foster care to adulthood.
Okay.
This is part of the First Lady Fostering the Future efforts, which are a Be Best initiative. In other news, the Democrats dragged on the government shutdown for 43 days, the longest shutdown in U.S. history. But tonight, thanks to Republicans, the White House is very hopeful that this shutdown is going to come to an end. The damage caused by the Democrats with this reckless government shutdown cannot be forgotten. It is entirely the fault of the Democrat Party. Just look at the vote count. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees have missed their paychecks. Tens of billions in wages and benefits were withheld, impacting vulnerable families. Millions of low-income Americans missed their SNAP benefits. Nearly 20,000 flights at airports across the country were delayed due to staffing shortages, causing Americans to miss family events. vacations, and work obligations. According to Airlines for America, an estimated 5.2 million travelers have had their flights disrupted over the course of the Democrat shutdown. And our economy has lost billions and billions of dollars in economic activity over the course of this shutdown, hurting consumer sentiment and crushing the travel and hospitality industries. According to a CBO estimate, the Democrat shutdown could end up decreasing fourth quarter economic growth by 2 whole percentage points. The Democrat shutdown made it extraordinarily difficult for economists, investors, and policymakers at the Federal Reserve to receive critical government data. The Democrats may have permanently damaged the federal statistical system, with October CPI and jobs reports likely never being released. And all of that economic data released will be permanently impaired, leaving our policymakers at the Fed flying blind at a critical period.
That's crazy. Now, real quick, Brandon, I'm gonna pause it for a second to answer your question. Why didn't they fix Obamacare in 16, 17, 18, or even 19? Well, they tried during the pandemic. And the issue was, when the pandemic happened and PPP loans and all the other good stuff, right? The provision there was that, you know what, we're going to kick this until December 30th, 2025. So the strategy was, if we wait enough time, we'll get through the Biden presidency. Won't address it then because we may not have both chambers, but hopefully we'll win 24. We'll have it, and we'll hopefully have the House and the Senate or good recollection and do another extension, whatever it may be, because no Republicans supported it previously, right? So that's how they got here. They were hoping that they would have the White House and this wouldn't happen, but when the dominoes fall, the motherfucking dominoes
It's hard to recap
fall.
all of this without asking the simple question: why? Why have the Democrats put the American people through this pain for 43 days in a row? And it
that's
feels
a
like
good damn
Groundhog
clip.
Day
That
being
was a
up
good
here
clip.
again,
I'ma use that.
talking about this Democrat shutdown. And the
I'm
answer
using
to
too
that
much Jasmine
question
Crockett anyway.
is pure partisan politics. They started this shutdown with a ridiculous demand to force taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits to illegal aliens who broke into our country. Even after it was clear President Trump and Republicans would never force American taxpayers to pay for free health care for illegals. In fact, President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill fixed that problem. The Democrats kept dragging this reckless government shutdown on for weeks longer to boost their turnout in an election, perhaps one might guess. That's because the Democrats are totally captured by their far left-wing base, who only care about attacking President Trump, even if it means hurting innocent Americans in our country. The Democrats' weakness and their unwillingness to buck the fringe members of their party dragged this harmful shutdown on for 7 weeks and inflicted massive pain onto the American public. But let's be clear, the clean CR being voted on today in the House of Representatives that will lead to the reopening of the federal government is what President Trump and Republicans have supported from day one. Our troops, air traffic controllers, and federal employees will be back to receiving their regular paychecks. Families in need will get back to receiving their food purchasing assistance, and the people's government will soon be back open for business. President Trump looks forward to finally ending this devastating Democrat shutdown with his signature, and we hope that signing will take place later tonight. On another matter, I want to address the affordability issue that's received a great deal of media attention this past week, which is ironic because it didn't receive that much attention when Joe Biden was here and inflation was at a record high 9%, the worst inflation crisis in modern American history. And President Trump won a landslide election in part to address the affordability issues created by Joe Biden and the Democrats. And that's exactly what President Trump has done since day one of his administration.
Since
the first day in office and every day since, the Trump administration has taken aggressive action to fix the Biden-created cost of living issues. The notion that the same Democrats who just shut down the federal government to sabotage our economy, rob people of their paychecks, and also helped Joe Biden ratchet up inflation to 9% are now suddenly affordability champions. That notion is completely absurd. And it's something only the liberal media would have the gall to push. But the reality is that President Trump and his administration have done so much to lower prices and increase the economic prosperity of the American people. And this president and his team of amazing economic advisors are going to keep working on this issue every single day. In less than 10 short months, President Trump signed the largest middle-class tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security, which will guarantee that next year Americans are going to put more money back into their pockets. The president has completely unleashed American energy dominance to help bring gasoline prices to the lowest in 5 years, and we expect them to continue to decrease. And it has also lowered energy costs overall. There is more work to do, but again, the president's deregulatory and pro-American energy agenda is absolutely going to continue to drive down prices. This formula worked in the president's first term, and we expect that it's going to work again. And this is key because we know energy costs are the #1 driver of inflation. Again, just look at what Joe Biden did to our energy industry over the past 4 years of his administration, and look at what happened to inflation as a result. Everything became more expensive. To lower prescription drug prices and healthcare costs, the president has been working around the clock on this issue. He is obsessed with negotiating these good deals on behalf of the American people to bring down pharmaceutical costs and drug costs for Americans, and he has done so on a number of fronts. You have seen him discuss that in the Oval Office several times. To fuel small businesses, lower their costs, and incentivize hiring, the Trump administration has already cut 30 unnecessary regulations for every new one on the books, which we know will save employers and small businesses across the country thousands of dollars in regulatory burdens. All of these pro-Trump policies are working, and they will continue to work. Wages are rising at the fastest pace of the start of a presidential administration in 60 years. The cost of the typical new mortgage is down by nearly $3,000 per year. There's much work to do, and this administration will continue to do it. But President Trump has already made great progress in cleaning up the economic disaster that was created by Joe Biden. With that, I will take your questions today, and in our new media seat, we have Bev Turner, who works for a new outlet, a UK outlet, but based here in Washington, D.C., GB News. Bev, thank you for being here today. Why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Caroline. So the clock is ticking. The recently resigned Director General of the BBC yesterday described the organisation as the very best of society and blamed the enemies of the BBC for this outcome. Also yesterday,
yeah, 50-year mortgage is wild, y'all.
Launched a fierce defence of the channel.
Y'all falling for that shit?
Saying that the broadcaster remains a light on the hill for people all over the world. So, does the president feel that the network is taking the situation seriously? Does he believe that they've shown sufficient regret? Does this strain the relationship the BBC in his pursuit of truth and justice?
Well, thank you, Beth. There's a lot of questions in one there. I will say I know the president has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Starmer. You have been there. You've seen them in their interactions. You've questioned both leaders in your time joining us when we've gone to the United Kingdom a few different times now. However, he has always been very frank when he disagrees with leaders, even whom he has a good relationship. Very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidized by British taxpayers, and he thinks that's extremely unfortunate for the great people of the United Kingdom and Great Britain. And I think that the president was deeply concerned by the editing, the purposeful and dishonest editing of his speech that was so clearly fake news. And he rightfully dubbed that term many years ago, and this is a classic example of that. We see it in the United States all the time. We see it now in the United Kingdom. As you know, the president's external legal counsel has filed a lawsuit against the BBC. We expect that to continue, and whether they apologize or not is up to them. Thanks for being here, Bev. Ouija.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
I have your statement about the new Epstein emails that have been released by House Democrats. Separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her, And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us. Mary.
Thank you, Kelly. 2 questions on this. In the interest of transparency, why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to get these out to the public. This administration also moved, the Department of Justice also moved to unseal grand jury. This administration has done more than any, and it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party.
Here they go with the bullshit.
Now they're talking about it all of a sudden because President Trump is in the Oval Office, but when Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an issue that they cared about. They don't care about the victims in these cases. They care about trying to score political points against President Trump, as we have, of course, seen with this government shutdown. And this entire thing, again, it's not a coincidence to the American people at home. There are no coincidences in Washington, D.C., and it is not a coincidence that the government,
because they knew that this is fucking hardball. This is a game we got to play to save Obamacare, baby. Leak the fucking emails, because guess what? The Republicans knew about these emails too. That's on the Oversight Committee. So both sides of the fence. They say it's selective, but release it all. Release all the files. What the fuck are we talking about?
This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media, and it's why I'm being asked questions about
with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files.
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't transparency having discussions with members of Congress about various issues? And I'm not going to detail conversations that took place in the Situation Room.
The shutdown deal reverses the administration's RIPs, and it also prohibits more from happening until the end of January. I'm wondering if the president had input on this element of the deal, and if he's at all disappointed that's going to reverse the downsizing of the federal government that they did during the shutdown.
I mean, look, I think it's about 6,000 workers total. When you look at that in comparison to the reduction in the federal workforce that this administration has done since January to get rid of the waste, the fraud, the abuse, and to reduce the size of our federal bureaucracy, we've done a lot of great work on that front, and we will continue to. But obviously, the president's main priority was to reopen the federal government and get people back to work, and that's what this deal accomplishes.
There's been reports in Israeli media that the U.S. is considering building a temporary military base on the Gaza border. Can you confirm these reports?
So I had an inquiry that somebody in the Department of Navy made about an idea that may happen in the future. And this reporter deemed that as this is not something the clearly doesn't want to see.
94% say yes.
To continue to see that move forward, but I deem it as official policy, and sometimes that misleads people a little bit. Sure.
There's been a question about UK intelligence sharing the U.S. military before any of these.
I've seen that report. I'm mission on our narco-terrorist campaign in the Caribbean. It is going to continue, and the president has made it very clear he's not going to allow terrorists to I'll go to John and then Zolan. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Trump has talked about sending out $2,000 checks to U.S. citizens.
Yeah, what's up with that,
He also talked about sending a Doge dividend. That didn't materialize. Should U.S. citizens expect the $2,000 proposal? Is the White House committed to making that happen?
The White House is committed to making that happen, yes. And details, but I can confirm for you.
With the 2K.
Zolan.
No NBA.
Can you explain then why?
Recipients contingency fund that did not even fund the full entirety of this program. And so then you had an unhinged judge who was trying to dictate from the bench that's why the administration pushed back on that. We can't have the judicial branch telling the executive branch that we need to rob the Children Nutrition Fund, which is what this judge was trying to do. But now the good news is, again, thanks to Republicans, recipients are going to receive their
long night ahead of us. We have a lot of debates. And more than anything, I got to go be a dad. I got to go tap out of this stream for today. I want to thank every single one of y'all for tapping in. Listen, plus people tapped in today. I gotta go be a dad and a husband real quick. Clean up the dishes before my wife gets home, and then go pick my son up. And listen, if you're a husband out there, you know certain shit got to get done before the wife gets home. So let me go be a husband. I think the 10 minutes between now and 4 o'clock, I'll be able to get the bare minimums done, right? But regardless of that, I want to thank each and every one of these. Subscribe so you get a notification when we go live later tonight, because when the house is on the floor, I know my son will be here, I'll be here, and then we're going to go on the stream. Over 150